Let me preface this by saying that this wish list will be entirely, for lack of a better term, realistic. I'm not about to say, I want an 06 Eggman and Elise 2-pack, Fiona the Fox from the Archie comics, and a 5-pack including all of the original Freedom. Why is that actually a good idea? But no, I'll try to keep it realistic, staying true to characters from recent games like the Trip figure getting released soon, or characters from games that already exist, like how Unleashed is now finally on the board. That being said, I'm going to go through my wishlist for 4-inch figures, 2.5-inch figures, playsets, multi-packs, variations of figures, starting with the 4-inch solo releases. Now, the most common releases in terms of wave re-releases are obviously Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow. And yes, while it would be easy to say make a gray Shadow with no mouth and call it a Mephiles Shadow form, since Mephiles is already on the roster, I feel like that's a little cheap, and they wouldn't do that. So instead, I'm going to add my first character to the wish list with Marine the Raccoon. She'd look perfect alongside a Blaze. Make a Burning Blaze, by the way, what are you doing? And I'm just a huge sucker for Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure in general. If we're touching IDW characters, since it's weird that they only made one and it was Sonic, or two if you want to count Froggy, I don't. There's literally already merch of Tangle and Whisper. They are canon to the games. They were mentioned in Frontiers. And on the topic, there's so many IDW characters to do. Tangle, Whisper, Jewel, Belle, Mimic, Starline, a Phantom Rider Sonic. I mean, look at this thing. If you want to re-release Sonic a million times, this is the way to do it. Going back to Sonic Rush, Eggman Nega is a great choice. I practically already have the mold for him, and speaking of molds and being able to just recolor a mold, allow me to infect your guys' minds with something really fast, and I promise you'll be just as frustrated as I am that they haven't done this yet. Android Shadow, the fake Metal Sonic, they love re-releasing Sonic. Do it again. Also, a recolor of Super Shadow would be a great re-release, and that way people that collected the Piss Shadow would still get to say that he's rare, but at the same time, everyone that wants a Super Shadow would have an accurate one. But my number one holy grail of wishlist items for Sonic 4-inch figures is Maria Robotnik. She is such an integral character to Shadow's story and Sonic Adventure 2 as a whole that I'm so surprised she hasn't been done yet. We just had Sonic 3 where she was a main character. We just had Shadow Generations. So they have an up-to-date game model of Maria, and we haven't seen her yet. I can segue really easily into multi-packs here, not mentioning Tangle and Whisper again, but I will. But Maria and Shadow, or even Maria and Gerald, would be insane. They have up-to-date models with Shadow Generations, like I said, and while on the topic, where is Black Doom? Or even a 2.5-inch Doomseye? That's also a good way to go into the 2.5 figures, so the most obvious ones are the Wisps. If we're making chows, we can make Wisps. Give me Whisper. But if you want to stay with characters that have been in almost every mainline Sonic game, Orbot and Cubot, like, the scale is there. It works perfectly. If you take a 2.5-inch classic and you set it next to the 4-inch figures, the scaling's there for Orbot and Cubot. Like, it would work perfectly. Or, since like I said, Unleashed is on the board, give me Chip. Make one of those 2.5-inch accessory packs and give me Chip with a medal that has the sun on one side and flips to make a moon medal. Jax, give me a job. If they want to stick with recent characters though and not touch Unleashed again, Sage is also being added to Crossworlds, so why not capitalize on the hype? The scale would also be perfect for her, or follow your own system, Jax, and make the rest of the chows. Sonic Generations just proved there's what, like 50? As for the playsets that they do, we've seen Jax likes to make the boss battles, which I love those. I prefer them so much to the level packs, but for some reason they really like focusing on only the classic games bosses instead of modern playsets. So allow me to offer you 5 modern playsets, starting with Metal Overlord. Metal Overlord is the peak concept of this, with included figures even just being Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, since you like re-releasing them so much anyway. Or make Solaris. It's the easiest way. I don't think he's been made yet, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the easiest way to introduce a 2.5-inch Super Silver and re-release a Super Shadow so he isn't like $40 for one figure, because scalpers suck. And since we're on the topic of grind shoe Sonic with recent releases in the 4-inch, make BioLizard. Even if you just re-release the 2.5-inch Sonic as he is and don't add the grind shoes onto him, why is BioLizard limited to a Lego set? That I now have, by the way. A bit more unrealistic, a 2.5-inch Silver with Iblis and an Iblis Biter, because I'm still a little salty about that 2-pack, don't get me wrong. Or Sonic in Perfect Chaos with a Chaos Emerald would also be really cool to see, and I'd buy them immediately. You can have all my money. If you really, really, really are dead set on doing the classic sets, Jax, I'll offer you an idea for that too. Where's Time Eater? You can make Classic Sonic and Modern Sonic, the two most popular 2.5-inch releases. You have a million variations of them. It wouldn't be hard. But if you also just want to do classic characters, do Classic Sonic and Classic Tails with Time Eater. All you gotta do is just make this. If I had more time to record today, obviously I could go on and just do this for an hour where I mention characters like Bean and Bark and Eclipse the Darkling from the Archie comics, or E102 Gamma or Gemerald. But for whatever reason, I see those guys as a bit more unrealistic. Mainly because Archie's never being touched again. Which is really sad because characters like Scourge are just in limbo now. I love him, I love that character, but you know, he's just gone. Now the reason I don't say Sally or the Freedom Fighters is because I don't know if you guys know this, Archie doesn't actually own those characters. Sega still does, they're just kind of deciding not to do anything with them. But before I accidentally start talking about Archie too much, I'll move on. I'll try to make wish lists every few waves just to see what becomes like more plausible. Since a few years ago I would have told you a Mephiles was a fever dream that you had a better chance of beating 06 glitchlessly than experiencing. But that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe. Goodbye.